My friends, it's a pleasure to have you for another cool video. In this video, I'll be discussing the cost management process involved in a typical construction project. Let's get started. Some of the learning outcomes that will be covered in this video include what a cost management plan is, the process that's involved in a cost management plan. We'll also have a look at the traditional cost management process, and as a result, we'll examine the drawbacks of such a traditional approach for cost management. What are the various aspects that make up the cost management plan that is involved in a typical construction project? We first start with, of course, a preliminary estimate that is based on the client's brief and scope. So here we have a rough idea of what needs to be constructed, the possible dimensions involved on the location or land given, the type of structure or the material that has to be used for the project. The preliminary estimate is roughly plus or minus 40 to 60% of the final estimates that you will end up with at a later stage in the project, once you have more details, of course. A cost plan is then developed, so that's the second step. It's usually as part of a feasibility study that you would develop this cost plan, and the cost plan would help you in determining the viability of the project, setting budget expectations, and in applying for loans or funding to complete the work. It is important to note that a cost plan in the construction industry is used as a way of controlling the estimated costs during the design and construction phases of a project. So this means that cost plans are living artifacts. Just like the project plans and drawings need to be constantly updated, you have to make sure that these plans are updated as you move across the life cycle of the project. Now, in the third stage, you'd have, or the third part of this process, you have a cost estimate. So this is where the initial design drawings would be utilized in order to generate this cost estimate. These estimates would then be updated as the design progresses from the conceptual to the detailed stage. You can think of a cost estimate as a prediction of the costs of construction. Now, in the tender reconciliation stage, a reconciliation of the cost plan with the tender information is made. And then finally, in the post-contract cost control stage, this is where you would make sure that you stay within budget through having specific controls implemented on the cost that you started off with. And that way you make sure that your budget is not exceeded for your project. What are some of the traditional cost management methods that are used in the construction industry? Nowadays, it is common for estimators to, for instance, digitize the architect's paper drawings, and this enables a quicker scaling and measuring process for deriving quantities from the plan drawings. Some people rely on indices that are published in databases to compare prices and establish cost plans. For instance, it may be known, for example, for someone that the construction of 5 townhouses in the eastern suburbs of Sydney will result in a net cash gain of $250,000 per year. And then this forms part of the value of the benefits that are considered in the feasibility study for a project. When it comes to cost estimates, there are people that import CAD drawings into cost estimating packages such as Costex in order to conduct their cost estimate for a project. You also still find people that, for example, perform manual takeoff from plans and drawings printed on, of course, paper. What you will notice is that this traditional way of cost planning and cost estimating is very tedious. This is especially true for the cost estimating part. It is a very labor-intensive process due to the non-interoperable isolation of software, the lack of automated responses, where you have to manually import and update each plan throughout all stages of a project. The traditional approach also involves the use of a lot of documents in order to extract relevant information. It is an isolated method that does not involve much collaboration with stakeholders. Because it relies on manual updates, there is the inability to respond to design variations, and as such requires a lot of rework if the design has to be modified due to, for instance, a clash between your mechanical and electrical elements in a project. Note that on average, to establish a cost estimate, 50 to 80% of the time is actually spent just on the quantification process. So what is the alternative to a traditional based cost management approach in construction projects? Stay tuned, because in the next video I will introduce to you 5D BIM as a viable solution to this.